Welcome to the Vicca Law podcast, Protecting Legacies, Resolving Conflicts. I'm Lidia Vicca, Director of Vicca Law, where we specialise in succession law, civil disputes and litigation in Queensland. If you want to safeguard your assets, navigate estate planning with confidence, or resolve legal conflicts effectively, you're in the right place. Join me each week as we break down complex legal issues into clear, practical insights, helping you protect your legacy and find solutions with certainty. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Vicca Law podcast, Protecting Legacies, Resolving Conflicts. I am your host, Lidia Vicca, Director of Vicca Law, and today we are continuing to talk about QCAT and what to do when someone owes you money, and we're going to talk about enforcement once you've gotten a successful QCAT order. So if you're at the beginning of your QCAT journey, I recommend you pop back into the episodes that we've done, for July, and come through listening to me. But most importantly, if you are at the beginning of your journey, you can pop in the link in the show notes. There's my free letter of demand template. That's right, free letter of demand template that I use in my firm that I've made available to everyone trying to get money back. And I also have a link to my course, Confidently Handle Your QCAT Claim, which literally takes you from woe to go, and all the way to the end. So this month, I've really tried to give an overview of the QCAT process, what to do if someone owes you money, but the course is extremely detailed. And next week, I'm going to do just a shorter episode just on what is involved in the course and what you can expect. But this week, we're talking about enforcement. Now, when I went to write the module for this part, enforcement, you've got a successful order. It's actually super complicated, and it's way more complicated than I initially probably had anticipated, because effectively your order gets lodged in the Magistrates Court and then you fall under the usual processes of enforcement of a monetary order under the Uniform Civil Procedure Rules, which is called the QCPR. Not to say it can't be done, can definitely be done by you, and in the course I go through it in great detail, but it is something that you kind of have to put the bits and pieces together to figure out what needs to be done. So after you have a successful decision, so you've received an order for QCAT and it's a monetary order usually in your favour, the first step is you almost go back to step one and you demand payment. Because the reality is the order doesn't say, oh, please pay into this bank account. It doesn't say that. There may be a time to pay, but it usually is not going to have your bank account details. So you need to give first the respondent the opportunity to pay. So I first recommend reigniting my letter of demand template and sending it to the respondent with your bank account details and asking for payment within a reasonable time. Now, in my view, a reasonable time is probably 14 days, but you shouldn't be taking any enforcement steps until after the time for appeal has lapsed. So an appeal can occur 28 days after an order has been given. So definitely once you get the order, write the letter, give a reasonable time, I would say 14 days, let the time for an appeal lapse, and if nothing still has happened, then move to the next step. And that first step is actually filing your order with an affidavit, and you will have been very experienced in affidavits by the time you get this step, an affidavit saying that the debt remains owing. And then your QCAT order actually becomes an order of the Magistrates Court, and you can enforce it as if it is an order from the Magistrates Court, which is really helpful because there are very detailed ways that you can enforce your order under the QCPR. After you've done that, the next step is to actually send to the respondent, I'm assuming it's a respondent here, a statement of financial position. Now, it's a form on the court's website, it's a QCPR form, and you send it to them and they need to fill it out and return it to you within 14 days. The idea of the statement of financial position is to figure out the financial position of the respondent so that you can then figure out the best way to enforce the order, okay? And then after you've done the statement of financial position and they've returned it to you, you can then apply for an enforcement order. And there are a couple of different ways that you can apply for an enforcement order. There's a couple of different warrants. They're warrants that you can apply for. Now, the main ones that, and I'm just looking at my notes to just confirm, the main ones are for payment by installments, an enforcement order for redirection of debts. So that's where there's a redirection in the bank. They redirect the funds to you. A redirection of earnings. So the employer actually has to redirect wages to you, or seizure and sale of property. Now, in my experience, your debt that's owed to you will be less than $25,000. Sale and seizure of property is expensive to do. You have to put in a certain amount of money into the court for the bailiff to do it. I don't think it's worth it. I just don't see the point of it. I think it's much better to go for an order for payment of installments or go down the enforcement warrant path. I think those are really two things that you should consider. But when applying for the warrant, the things that are considered by the registrar who actually ends up giving the order is, the amount of the debt, the living expenses of the debtor, and do they have dependents that are relying on them for that debt? The debtor's means of satisfying the order as a whole, whether there would be hardship on the debtor. These are all things that are taken kind of into consideration, and it really just depends. And these are things that you should critically think about as well when you're looking at the statement of financial position, because you don't want to go down the path of applying for that order or applying for that enforcement warrant and then not getting that warrant or getting it set aside for hardship. I know it sounds crazy, and look, there's no justice spiel that sometimes I like to go into with clients, particularly when they have large debts and they have to spend a lot of money on legal fees. It seems counterintuitive, but I think the courts and the court rules is really just trying to balance the debt being repaid to you, but also the realities of the debtor. I mean, there would be no intention to leave somebody homeless, for example, not be able to support their families. So it's just really a balancing act when you get to that point. You may be required to attend an enforcement hearing. So if the statement of financial position is not completed and returned to you, you then actually can apply for an enforcement hearing, and the debtor or the respondent is required to front a registrar and answer questions about their financial position. And at that point, the registrar actually might make an enforcement warrant. So there are lots of options to you. It's not just a matter of, I've got this order, they're not going to pay, that's the end. It's definitely not that. It just depends on the situation of the debtor, what your appetite is to continue to do these things. And as I said, it's actually quite complex. And once I delved into it, because I actually hadn't for a couple of years just been in the position where we've gotten to the point of needing to do an enforcement warrant or an order for payment by installments. It's actually quite intensive. So that's why my course is such a great resource. It goes step by step, everything you need to do. I give you all the documentation. I give you sample documents, the templates that you need to go through this path and get money paid back to you. And I think that it's worth it. I mean, you've gone all this way. You've got a successful QCAT audit. You should definitely keep going. And my view is, if someone owes you money, they need to pay back for you. Okay, that is always my view. And that's why I guess that's why part of the reason I became a lawyer, but definitely why I kind of bottled this all up into a little knowledge funnel in my course. So I hope that's given you an overview of enforcement and not scared you off. But as I said, the link in my show notes to the free letter of demand template, to my course, Confidently Handle Your QCAT Claim, is there as well. If you get really stuck, you can book a free consultation with me at www.vicalaw.com.au, and we can talk about, the fees that it's free first. Then if you want me to help you further, there will be some fees. But, it really depends on the situation and your circumstances. But I think that it's still, if money's owed to you, you should be getting that money back. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening to today's podcast. Next week, I'm actually going to talk about what's in the course, what's involved, what you can expect. So definitely pop back for that one. But otherwise, have a great week, and I will speak to you then. Bye. That's a wrap for this episode of the Vicca Law Podcast, Protecting Legacies, Resolving Conflicts. I hope you found today's insights helpful in navigating your legal journey. If you're ready to take the next step in securing your legacy or finally dealing with your dispute, you can pop on my website www.viccalaw.com.au to book a free consultation with me, Lidia Vicca. You can also subscribe to our newsletter or find out more about today's topic. Your future begins now, and we're here to guide you every step of the way. Until next time, I'm Lidia Vicca, signing off. The Vicca podcast comprises general information and does not serve as a substitute for professional advice. Prior to making any legal decisions, individuals are advised to seek independent professional guidance and assess the suitability of this information for their own individual goals and objectives.